Meghalaya and Greater Shillong Progressive Hawkers and Street Vendors Association (MGSPHSVA) ने मेघालय स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ लाइवलीहुड एंड रेगुलेशन ऑफ स्ट्रीट वेंडिंग एक्ट 2014 को निरस्त करने के राज्य सरकार के फैसले की सराहना की है, ताकि संबंधित केंद्रीय कानून का पालन किया जा सके। स्ट्रीट वेंडिंग। राज्य सरकार ने बुधवार को अपने महाधिवक्ता के माध्यम से मेघालय उच्च न्यायालय को सूचित किया कि उसने 2014 के अधिनियम को समाप्त करने का प्रस्ताव रखा है। हम स्ट्रीट वेंडिंग पर केंद्रीय कानून को लागू करने पर जोर देते रहे हैं। राज्य अधिनियम को निरस्त करने का राज्य सरकार का निर्णय फेरीवालों और इस राज्य के नागरिकों के लिए सबसे बड़ी जीत है। उन्होंने कहा कि MGSPHSVA का गठन 6 साल पहले मजदूर वर्ग के खिलाफ भेदभाव और उत्पीड़न के कारण किया गया था। उन्होंने 2015 के बाद से सड़कों से बड़े पैमाने पर अवैध निष्कासन को याद किया, जब अधिकारियों ने कभी भी जब्त किए गए सामानों को विक्रेताओं को वापस नहीं किया।
Which gave birth to one of the biggest organizations of workers, of informal sector workers, the Meghalaya and Greater Shillong Progressive Hawkers and Street Vendors Association, to declare victory, a victory of the workers and a victory of the people. Because 6 years ago, this association came about because there was discrimination and oppression against this working class. Since 2015, there was rampant illegal evictions. You would see, on the streets, children running away with their wares, mothers worried, and it was like a cat and mouse game. There was also so much illegality in that even when they confiscated goods, these were never returned. And here were people trying to earn a livelihood. People who did not have enough capital to even buy the goods for the day. And yet the state was going after them as if they were criminals. And it was then that we began our association with the street hawkers and vendors by first trying to understand what were the issues and also discussing with them what are the options, what are the various laws. And while we were doing this, we realized that the Meghalaya government had illegally brought in a state law when there was already a central law on hawking. And that's when we challenged the Meghalaya law because it had clauses which actually disempowered the hawkers and which was nothing but an excuse to just evict them. Whereas the Central Act, as you know, we have repeated this over and over again, is an act that had enabling provisions that ensured that alongside regulation of hawking, there would be protection of livelihoods, which is essential. And so it had provisions like having an in-situ survey, of having a holding capacity for the city, of having a town vending committee. This is the most important aspect, where the members of which would be 50% of them should be hawkers themselves, because it will be hawkers who will understand best where is it that it is good to sell, how can they organize themselves, their timings, the licensing. And so we kept pushing for this law. And today, finally, yesterday in the Meghalaya High Court, the Advocate General has submitted to the High Court that the government will repeal the State Act. And this is a big victory, a big victory for the hawkers and the citizens of this state. And we want to say that this victory is a victory of women, of indigenous people, and of the working classes coming together. Because the Hawkers Association, more than 70% of members are Khasi, Jaintia, Garo women who are trying to raise their children and have a livelihood. And when this association came about, not only that there was state repression and illegal evictions, but there were also non-state actors who were taking advantage of the most marginalized section of our society. There were extortions, people who would promise that they would help them in some way or the other, or they were just extorting on an everyday basis. But ever since this association came together and the people were in solidarity with each other, even the non-state oppression had stopped, And so this 6 years has been a big learning experience. And today this victory should not only be the victory for the hawkers and street vendors, it should be a victory for this town, the city, Because a smart city is a city where people come together, where people build solidarities, where people come together across community lines. And it is a city, a smart city is one where we don't just go and beg and plead, with representatives. We have to base our struggles on rights and justice. And this is what the hawkers have shown us. It's possible and can be done. There's so many more issues that we will encounter and that we will fight for. And this message we want to give very clearly, that when your struggle is based on rights, justice and fairness, the victory will be yours. And so I urge also the other people who are struggling, the citizens of the state, there's so many things that we can do. And it is possible. It is possible. We just need to come together and base our struggle on justice and rights. And now the struggle, it's not as if it just ends with this proclamation from the High Court, because now the law has to be operationalized, which means the rules have to be notified, and now the town vending committee has to be set up. And so we will be keeping a close eye on the composition of the town vending committee. The Hawkers and Street Vendors Association has always told the district administration and the state that they're willing to work with them. And so I think even during the survey, the association will be the one taking the lead in the survey. They will be the one taking the decisions in the town vending committee. And with that, we are certain that things will be better, not just for the hawkers and street vendors, but for this town as a whole. Actually, what we have been hearing is that there will be a mall somewhere in the MTC building. So many times the Hawkers Association has given proposals to the state about identifying these hawking zones. Like that MTC, if they're going to break down, that's an ideal place where hawkers and street vendors can be accommodated. Even here, we had, when we were giving suggestions about Punjabi line, we said there should be a bus terminus, there should be a place for storage of goods, there should be a place for hawkers and street vendors. And that's the way it should go. But what we need to understand is that obviously there is a struggle between the mall culture and this other economic activities that supports many more. And for sure, I think citizens have to understand that we have to create avenues and systems which support life for the many and not concentrate capital and power in the hands of a few.